Recovering Out Loud podcast. I'm your host, Charles Van Loucks. Today, I want to talk about communication. Now, this is a topic that can help anyone, right? Whether you're in recovery or not. But I wanted to talk about communication because I feel like that's a very common, issue that I hear come up where people just don't feel they're on the same page or they have a hard time expressing what they truly want to without other emotions and things like that. So I just wanted to talk through it and offer some tips. The first thing that I want to mention is that, everyone has their own filter, right? So what do I mean by that? Well, if you lined up three different people and said to each of them, hey, you look good today, right? They might take that three different ways. And that's what I mean by their filter. It's how they process that information. So, the first person might, oh my God, thank you for the compliment, that kind of thing. The second person might be like, oh, okay, well, what do you want? They're a little leery, right? Like that's the subtext is that, you want something, right? Because you're giving them that compliment. And the third person might hear that and think you're being sarcastic. Like, what do you mean I look good? F you, you look good, blah, blah, blah. So, I mean, starting off with that information, I think can sometimes help. And, they have something called reflective listening where, as a person shares stuff with you, you can actually say, I heard you say, you think I look good. And then kind of repeat that back to them. And by doing that, it might feel kind of silly doing it in the moment, repeating stuff that the other person says back to them, but it can be really helpful communication wise because you're letting the person know that you're hearing them, you're repeating back exactly what you heard. And sometimes you can have those filter, aspects come out in that repetition. The person can say, oh, you think I look good, right? And then that'll show them, oh, hey, you kind of took that a different way than I intended. And then you can address it in that moment. You can say, oh, no, I was actually being genuine. That's, you do look good, Um, so I think that can be a helpful place to start is figuring that out, right? Whether it's you and your partner or, you and a friend or family, whoever it is, right? Kind of figure out what some of those filter aspects, might be for you. The other part of communication is so sometimes I feel like they'll get heated during a conversation or start to get upset about something, but they don't stop, right? They don't stop the conversation. They just kind of keep going. And then they say something snippy. The other person says something snippy. Now you're both defensive, and here we go. Got to fight, And as soon as one person gets defensive, the conversation's over pretty much, right? In terms of having like a logical, constructive conversation, So, what you can do in that kind of situation is take a little break. I think it's perfectly fine to take 10, maybe 15 minutes, right? A short break. And during that break, and by the way, you can just tell the person, you could even set it up ahead of time, like, hey, if I start to feel a little heated or whatever, I'm just going to request that we take a short break, return to it. And you can even explain like, hey, during that time, I'm going to be trying to decipher between the strong emotions I was feeling versus the logical thought that I'm trying to convey, the point I'm trying to make. So while you're on that break, you can do some different grounding exercises, right? Try to, watch a funny clip of a show, even something like that. Just something to kind of get out of that moment and re-ground it so that you can, get back to that conversation. But make sure that you feel, that you've gotten past that emotion so that when you return to the conversation, you can you can leave the emotion aside as much as you can, at least, and just get back to the main point, So then when you return to the conversation, hey, I was, You could even say something like, "Hey, I just wanted you to know that when you did such and such, it made me feel this way, and I just wanted to let you know that." Right? So we're not necessarily like placing blame on anyone. We're not saying, "Hey, you effer, you did this and you did that, and you're wrong," blah blah blah. Right? We're not. I mean, that's immediately going to get somebody defensive, right? Because they're being accused. But we're instead just pointing out that, hey, from our perception, this particular action or whatever made us feel a certain way. And I just wanted you to know that because I've come across it myself, right? Where someone doesn't even know that's what they're doing, and then once it's brought to their attention, they're, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I didn't even mean to do that. Thank you for telling me. I'll make sure I don't do it in the future. And I think, that's the other thing about healthy communication, right? Being able to, have these moments where we can voice the things that are bothering us, and the thing is, you should voice even the small ones. Now, that doesn't mean you need to say, like, blow up at them, if they do something you don't like or anything like that, right? We're talking about, you know, direct but respectful communication. So somebody cuts you in line, you don't have to, throw your basket of groceries at them and kick them in the head or, some silly like that. Don't do that, right? But no, you just say, hey, excuse me, the line started here, right? This is the back of the line right here. Direct but respectful. And I think by doing that and making it a habit so that when we feel these things come up that bother us, we address them. I think by doing that, we're going to feel, better ourselves too, right? We're being true to ourselves, right? We're respecting ourselves. And I think that can be really helpful. And the other thing too is, even if it's something small that maybe we minimize or we're like, oh, I won't even bring it up, it's not a big deal. That can be kind of dangerous because sometimes if we minimize something that does bother us a little bit, it can sit there and fester, right? It can sit there and grow, turn into something else. Now all of a sudden we got a resentment. And that's what we want to avoid, are those resentments. So by being able to address these things while they're small and manageable and easy to talk through, that can definitely kind of help in the long run. I think that I think it also comes down in communication to, mutual respect, right? Feeling like you're both like stretching to understand the other person, doesn't mean we have to agree with them, right? It doesn't mean that we're saying you're right, I'm wrong. We're just simply trying to stretch to understand. Because if we come at a conversation that could be difficult from a place of just trying to understand instead of right and wrong, I think then we can start to see some interesting change and support. It's almost like coming at it from more of a supportive angle, as opposed to, oh, we're talking and we're head to head, blah, blah, blah. No, no, no. I mean, that's not, you're never going to get anywhere like that, So I think that, those are definitely some helpful places to start with communication. And I would say also just, try to make sure that you have, like, if there's something that you want to bring up, try to make sure you're also picking a good time to do so, right? Like, for example, first thing when the person comes home from work and you're wrangling the kids, trying to fix dinner and doing this and that, might not be the best time in the middle of all that to try and talk about something, right? But hey, the kids are asleep, everyone's fed, we're kind of, downshifting, we're getting into chill mode for the night. That's a better time, or even on a weekend, right? Where, maybe you have a nice chunk of time where you guys don't have anything planned, there's nothing going on, you're just kind of hanging out. That can be a great time to talk, and I think a helpful way that I've approached communication for myself is trying to come at it from a place of curiosity and learning, right? So I'm not thinking to myself like, oh, that person, they did this and they did that, and I'm gonna put it in their face and I'm gonna make them pay for it, blah, blah, blah. Right? No, right? We're talking to them in terms of, hey, I wonder if they know that I found that offensive. I wonder if they know that that bothered me, right? Because they can't read our minds. They don't know. They have no idea, right? Now, if we're addressing it in that way, if we're coming at it from a place of curiosity and understanding and trying to then communicate that to our partner or family or whomever, that's a good place to come from, right? Because then we're not attaching and putting our emotional or whatever thing was bothering us, we're not putting that on the person and saying, this is yours. You did this to me. This is your fault, right? Because that's accusing them. That's saying that they did something wrong, right? And that's not the right way to go about it either, really. Um, so I think those are definitely some constructive kind of tools for communication. And, I think also just kind of pointing out to someone like, if they say something in like kind of maybe a disrespectful kind of way or kind of short, that kind of thing, just pointing it out to them. Again, direct and respectful. That's going to be our mantra, right? Direct and respectful, but that's the whole key in my opinion, because, a lot of people will shy away from a conversation because they feel they're being standoffish or they're starting drama or whatever, but it's not the case, right? Direct and respectful. So, when you're able to do that and address that, short, snippy kind of answer or whatever, 9 times out of 10, the person didn't mean anything by it, right? Or it has nothing to do with you, right? They're they're stuck in their own thought about their own day. And, while all this is going on, here comes something else, some conversation. Now just, oh yeah, whatever, fine. So it's not even necessarily about us, right? But that's a good spot for communication, right? Then we can say, hey, you know what? When I came to you to tell you about this win that I had today, this good thing that I did today, and you came back with this snippy little response and it wasn't really helpful or supportive or anything, it made me feel bad. Just want you to know that. And then they could say, oh my God, yeah, dude, I'm sorry. Like I was thinking about this and that, and I wasn't really present, and I'm sorry. Let's start over. Let's tell me about it. And then, that's a great time to, bring those things up and talk through them and get that support that you want, as opposed to if we don't say anything, right? We might have an unwanted message now of, oh, this person doesn't care. They could care. They don't care about me, right? They don't care about my wins, my victories, all because of that short, snippy response, right? But by minimizing it and not addressing it, we've now given ourselves a potential future resentment. So it's important to bring those things up, again, direct, respectful, right? That kind of thing. We're not blaming, we're not doing any of that. Just bring it to their attention. Hey, when this action happened, I felt this way from it. I just wanted you to know that. There you go. And yeah, just kind of remaining in that place, using those kinds of tools with communication can be really helpful for sure, and yeah, just kind of outing ourselves too, right? Like if we're in a particular mood a certain day and they're wanting to communicate something to us, right? Like in that example, let's say our partner is coming back to us with, oh, hey, man, I had this great win today. I wanted to talk to you about it, this and that. And if we're kind of not in the right headspace and we're a little snippy, own up to it, right? Say, hey, you know what? I was like, if they don't say anything, own up to it and say, hey, you know what? I wasn't present when you brought that up. I was thinking about this and that and stressed out about this, blah, blah, blah. And I'm sorry. Let's start again, and then that gives them a moment to voice that to us, to feel heard, right? Because that's what communication comes down to, right? Everyone wants to feel heard, Everyone wants to feel understood, accepted, all that, you know? So let's give ourselves the opportunity to do so. And, if you have any specific questions about communication, or, you have a comment, leave them below. I'll also include my email. Send in any questions if you'd rather do it anonymously or anything like that. And, yeah, let's begin. Let's begin a dialogue, communication, a conversation down below, and see what things come about, and everything. Because just keep in mind that, like, if you're early in recovery, and you're maybe your support people are kind of getting on your nerves and this and that, just remember, this is all new to them too, right? It's new to us, it's new to them. Communicate that. Allow them in. Let them know what you're feeling, right? They don't know. They can't read your mind. So open up, talk to them about it. Let them support you. Guide their support, right? And again, that comes back to communication. So if it's, they're supporting in a way that they think is helpful, but it's really not helpful for you, voice that, you know? Again, direct and respectful. Say, hey, you know what? I know you mean well with such and such, but I want you to know that it would actually be more helpful if you did this over here instead, And I think that allows your support people to grow and be more supportive, right? I think it also allows us to kind of stand up for ourselves more and communicate things more effectively. And, at the end of the day, get closer with our support people, right? Feel closer to ourselves, right? Have, a better self image, better self talk, all that stuff. So give it a shot. And if you have any questions, let me know, and we'll dive into all that. So I appreciate you stopping by, and we'll see you on the next one. Thanks.